Hi, and welcome back to the Telling All podcast. I'm your host, Juan Rodriguez. Thank you very much for joining me after a brief break last week. I was enjoying a nice mini vacation with one of my oldest friends. And I'd like to take this episode to focus on a reminder that I've needed too often in my own life, and I hope to impart upon the viewers a reminder to find or make time for all types of things, the little things, the big things, quality time, and just much needed rest and relaxation from the busy lives that we all seem to get swept up in one way or another in our modern society. I was supposed to be joined by a very good friend, but I mixed up my recording dates, and I get to record with them actually the day that this drops, so you guys can all look forward to my second guest next week, Tuesday at 7 a.m. And the friend that I was so grateful to visit this week will be a guest in the future as well. He's got a very busy schedule and a flourishing YouTube channel, and I was just so grateful to take 3 days to just spend some time and catch up. And the beauty of that was he was very grateful to take some time to unplug from his busy schedule and kind of just live in the moment. And when I say these little things we should find time for, I don't mean visiting friends across the country. I mean just taking time and unwinding for a bit. Maybe watching that series on Netflix that you wanted to give a shot but couldn't find time for. Or in our case, some of the touristy things like mini golf, holding gators, axe throwing, and hitting the driving range. I've had friends here in Connecticut that have wanted me to try the driving range, and I could never really find a reason to, but that's one of those things that I was very grateful to have tried out with my friend Danny. And it was a beautiful experience simply because we were there for about an hour and a half the first day. And I'd say within the first 10, 15 minutes, we both picked up the basics, and it was fascinating because we both learned in very much the same way. We were observing the people around us and how they were approaching the tee and their body language and their stance, and we were kind of implementing that. And I mean, that was very fun. And focusing on the theme of this podcast, which is gratitude. I'm grateful for Danny's friendship for a plethora of reasons. But the simple fact of the matter is, in 3 days, I found so many more reasons to be grateful for him. And between the humor, the conversations, the quality of the time spent, and just reconnecting, I was able to rediscover, exactly what draws me to people in the first place, of all types of mindsets, all different types of walks of life, and the through line, which is kind of perseverance, a willingness to look inward, and also a willingness to reflect on how we view things and where the blame lands for a lot of things. In the instance of the mini golf, it was fascinating simply because we were able to adjust in real time and get results in real time as well. And we went back the next day, and that was very fun just because it was kind of a push and pull. And I learned that I'm somewhat of a straight shooter when it comes to driving the point home, so to speak. And that was a wonderful reflection of my real life as well as my leisure time. And it was a lot of fun. Got some great shots and got to be in the moment, which is something that I often struggled with in the past. And golf isn't something that I was particularly interested in before this trip, but after figuring out that it could be picked up, at least the very basics of it, over the course of 2.5 hours, it's given me something to look forward to. And the next time I visit, we get to go back and we get to play those games and we get to settle the 2 out of 3 because Danny got the first day, I got the second day, and right now it's a tie. Tying that into the second day, which was the axe throwing, he completely obliterated me. I mean, obliterated. There's a reason I refer to him as the game master in my contacts. Doesn't matter what we're playing, he has a mind for games of strategy and tactics and also skill. And that man hit over 36 bullseyes with an axe. It's in his blood at this point. I am telling him that he's a card carrying member of the Axe Gang, circa Kung Fu Hustle, for those who've seen that movie. And aside from the experiences of just taking him out and going to some of the places that he's driven by and hasn't actually taken the time to visit, I was grateful for the hospitality that he and his family always offered, and being welcomed with open arms and a nice plate and a cold beer, and just taking time to be in each other's presence and kind of just enjoy the finer things in life. Or the simpler things, depending on how you want to look at it. Now, a recap of my vacation or my time away aside, I often wonder about the people in my life if they're taking time for themselves, whether that be a little time in the evening after they've put their children down or after they've unwound from a long day of work. I wonder if people truly appreciate just how much a weekend away can do. A change of scenery. I've always subscribed to the idea that change starts here and not somewhere else. In terms of starting over in a new place can be great for some, but it's all about adjusting your mindset and understanding that these things take time and that it's an iterative process and it's day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour, however you want to break it down. It's assuming you want to change anything or you feel as though you have to. I suppose the bottom line is we get too caught up in our day-to-day minutia and going from goal to goal and making sure that these things are accomplished. But I ask you, do you ever take the time or schedule the time and to just veg out or do nothing? What are some of the ways that you unwind? Whether you have a few minutes or a few hours. Because I tell you what, I found some new ways this weekend and it was wonderful. It was eye-opening and I can't wait to do it all again. This episode will be coming out after Memorial Day weekend. Some people like to do cookouts. Some people like to go down to the beach. Me personally, it's going to be a rainy day. So I get to explore some of my relaxation and unwinding hobbies of days past with family at home. I'm very grateful for that time. Some people do hobby kits. Hobby Lobby just had a 40% off sale. Some people play video games. Some people like to unwind with a podcast and a glass of wine. Others might like to read a book or binge a show. I'm guilty of that last one. I actually just finished a show that we started out in Florida just yesterday, and that was quite an experience. Too often we focus on what we do with our times and we tie them to productivity or accomplishing goals. But what would it be like if we all set relaxation and self-care as a goal? And what would it feel like to actually accomplish that day in, day out, or week after week? Maybe we wouldn't feel so guilty about procrastinating or putting things off if we actually had a time to look forward to do just that. For me personally, I know that me time always goes to the end of my to-do list. And that's simply because my to-do list is pages upon pages long. Because while I enjoy list making and I enjoy leaning into the type A aspects of my personality and focusing on the minutia of my day-to-day and breaking each task down into an elaborate scientific process, it's not always healthy. And sometimes you need to break these things up so that they're a little bit more manageable. And this podcast has given me something to look forward to every week and something to learn from as I go through my day-to-day life, whether that be new tips and tricks for editing, different things to reference, or a structure to implement with this. Because I don't want to be someone who necessarily rambles, but I'm guilty of that. And I suppose all that is to say that with gratitude being at the forefront, can I be grateful for all the time that I've placed into these various things in my life? Whether that be relationships, passion projects, or just educational endeavors. Can I take that gratitude and apply it to these well-earned breaks every so often, whether that be a 3-day weekend in Florida, somewhere here in Connecticut, or perhaps even just in finally using an online calendar and just planning out my days to the point where everything has its place, everything has its day, and I'm no longer trying to get everything done as quickly or as efficiently done as soon as possible. Knowing that you can hold off on certain things can often kind of just alleviate that mental burden. Or in my case, analysis paralysis of where do I start? For me, it's just getting going. But I found over the course of this weekend that just being able to put everything off for a couple days, the solutions kind of came to me and I was able to document them in real time and just apply them to a quick note or adjust my schedule. And I found myself doing that towards the end of the day, after the fun had been had and it was just time to wind down. And I suppose I'm very grateful that I have a job that allows me however much personal time, especially coming from the days of retail where depending if you were full-time or part-time, you didn't even get those days. And that brings me back to just being grateful for how far I've come from the days of no personal time to a week to two to however many days I have now in my current career. And we all know the types of people that can stack up their personal time for years and plan for something big and extravagant, or the types that burn their days as soon as they get them. I've got a day, I'm going to call in sick, I'm taking a me day. I wonder, viewers, where do you fall in this spectrum? Do you save your days and take one trip? Do you break them up into many day trips? Or perhaps you are a strategic mastermind, know all the holidays and 3-day weekends and kind of tack on there. Florida was very beautiful and there was plenty to do. And I've alluded to the fact that we've held a gator while we were out there. Very adorable gator, a lot softer than I thought it would be. So I'll ask this question. What have been some of your favorite vacation destinations or activities? For me, I'm always willing to try something new. Especially the person who's suggesting it is lit up. I'm just in it for the simple fact that they seemed hyped up about it. It's got to be fun. And I can tie that into the very simple question of, are you taking time for yourselves in whatever form that might be? In a given week, how much time does the average person take? Especially if you're a parent, how much time do you take for yourself? Are you allowed? I know myself, I used to covet my alone time. I used to covet my quiet time. Times of reflection on my day-to-day activities and on my goals. But these days it seems like I'm more willing to give my time to everyone else because I know what it means to me and I know that I'll find time for myself eventually. So I'm able to delay gratification on that. So all in all, I'd say I'm very grateful for structure and routine and the ability to make adjustments in real time because it makes me appreciate scheduled recording nights with a friend for a new project, for example, or a 3-day getaway, or just a dinner date with a friend and my wife, or a simple movie date. It's knowing that these getaways are possible that allows me to kind of push through and get through tough times knowing that there are things to look forward to in the not too distant future. And I'm very grateful for that shift in perspective, because when you're in the day to day muck, especially during the busy seasons, if you have those in your occupation, it can seem like these days just blur together. And I wonder how many of you can empathize. I wonder how many of you feel like you're just dragging. And what's it feel like in those brief moments when you're able to pull your head above everything and just appreciate the time that's passed and appreciate just how far you've come? So this episode's a little bit on the briefer side. This is not the one I had in the vault. That one's a secret for another day. To summarize, taking time for yourself can manifest in all types of ways. It could be a 3-day weekend, it could be a day trip, it could just be knowing that you have a set time every day to pursue whatever it is you enjoy. Whether that be podcasting, education, model kits, other hobbies. And it's this attitude of gratitude towards that time that you get to schedule for yourself that gets to paint how you spend your time. It doesn't matter the ratio or necessarily the consistency of that time, it's the quality. So I'll end here. What are some of the ways that you spend your time that you're most grateful for? And I suppose I'll end with another question that I hope to fine tune going forward. What's something you're grateful for this week? Thank you, and I'll see you next week with my second guest. Take care now. Bye-bye.